No discussions beyond 2022 and what has happened since Jason Light made those comments last week at a pre-draft press conference. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have revised his contract for this year to create some cap space, just enough to bring back Gronk, but no new years. That's the key. Brady's still on track to be a free agent next year, and if he wants to play for another team, any team at all, he has the power to go do it. That's the key, because last year they created cap space, Tom, by extending him for a year. Mm-hmm. This year they create cap space without extending him. I don't think he wanted to be extended. I don't think he wanted to be back this year, and I know that makes Buccaneers fans very happy every time I say that. But I don't think he wanted to be back this year. I think he retired from the Buccaneers, not from the NFL, and he realized when he had no other options and they weren't going to let him leave, his only choice if he wanted to play football was to go back to Tampa Bay, and he did.
Maybe the conversation with the Glazers was, hey, you guys want to sell me some? Maybe that's what they were talking about over there in London.
Well,
I doubt it. But
I think by then he knew he was coming back. By then, he had no choice. I don't know if he had to undo any damage with them. There's one theory that he went over there to kiss the ring a little bit to make sure they were okay with him coming back. Well, but let me you're very quick to dismiss. He embarked on this plan to end up in Miami as a minority owner. That's 100% true. The Dolphins were planning to introduce him as a minority owner of the team as soon as Super Bowl week after he retired on February 1. It was the Brian Flores lawsuit that blew all that up, that blew up the whole potential Tom Brady, Sean Payton coupling in Miami. And even if you take Payton out of the mix, it was on track for Brady to become a minority owner of the Dolphins, and that is 100% true. It was happening. The Dolphins have privately admitted they were talking about Brady becoming a part owner of the team. So when he retired, remember the day he retired and people in New England got upset because he didn't mention the Patriots at all?
Correct.
I think the reason he didn't mention the Patriots is the focal point was, I'm retiring from the Buccaneers. I am breaking up with you, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's who I'm retiring from right now. I'm not making my full-blown final retirement from football. When I do that, of course, I'll be effusive about the New England Patriots.
I hadn't thought of that, because I think we were so immersed in the notion of him doing it because the Patriots got their thank you, and they were not entitled to a second thank you because they're the ones who orchestrated him not finishing here. So that's what we have taken as the upshot of why they weren't there. But that does make sense. Hey, I'm not moving on from the NFL. I'm moving on from the Bucs. So I don't want to get hammered with, and I'll miss you too, all these cities that I played in one time that I'll never see again. But let me ask you this, Mike. If all that was going to happen, this is never something that I've actually heard the explanation given. When was he going to play for the Dolphins? He gets the minority ownership. The Flores thing never happens. Peyton gets hired. When was Tom Brady going to be extricated from Tampa to play for Miami?
A deal would have been done between the Dolphins and the Buccaneers sometime in the spring, I was told. The timeline was...
It's too easy to explain. How would that happen?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Tom Brady becomes minority owner, and as Ben Volen has reported, he would have taken a Derek Jeter-style role, front office executive with the Dolphins. Peyton gets traded for and becomes head coach. And some point in the spring, the Dolphins and the Buccaneers do a deal. Now, the Buccaneers could have said no way, no how, but by then the Buccaneers would have moved on. There's an alternate universe out there where the Buccaneers go get Baker Mayfield, or the Buccaneers go get Deshaun Watson. The Buccaneers go get someone and move on. It's a different conversation altogether once the Buccaneers have moved on. And at that point, and this is what I was arguing back then, look at what Tom Brady has done for this team. You mean to tell me if Tom Brady doesn't go to Jason Light or one of the Glazers and say, I brought you bastards a Super Bowl championship, pardon me. I filled your stadium for a year when it otherwise would have been Cricket City. Let me go. Take whatever the Dolphins are going to give you. And I know Sims is big on the idea that there were already conversations about a second-round pick. I haven't reported that because I haven't nailed that down. Sims believes that there were conversations there was going to be a second-round pick traded for Brady at some point, and that deal was already in place. Again, I don't know that, but it would have worked out. And you know what?
I just don't think the Bucs would have rolled over that easily.
Well, let me tell you. I think somebody from 345 would have gotten involved, and said, hey,
Well,
look, Buccaneers, let's have a conversation here. Let me make this point, Tom. Let's have a conversation here, Buccaneers. Remember in 2020 when you guys were blatantly tampering with Tom Brady, when Bruce Arians is at the scouting combine openly saying he's going to pursue Tom Brady before free agency even begins, and we didn't come down on you. We could have taken a third-round pick. We could have taken more from you for that. We didn't do it. So you let this go because we need Tom Brady in the NFL, and he's not playing for you. You're not going to stand in his way while he plays for somebody else. You're working this deal out. I think that it would have come to that, if it came to that the NFL would have twisted the Buccaneers' arms to ensure that this guy is able to play in the NFL in 2022.
Think about Tom Brady, and I do a lot. I have most of my professional life, which is that is a privilege because I've got to watch Babe Ruth and Wayne Gretzky in some regards, and Derek Jeter for most of my life, and then he's moved on. Since he's moved on, 2016, they beat Atlanta to come back from 28-3, and someone told me after that Super Bowl, someone very close to Tom, said, everything changes now. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, he's got 5. Nobody else has 5. Montana doesn't have 5. Bradshaw doesn't have 5. He's in rarefied air. And that was the offseason where the schism began. That it was early 2017 going into the 2017 season because Brady self-actualized. He became self-aware. And the TB12 book came out. Tom versus Time was in the works. Gronkowski, as he was coming back, Brady was, look, you do stuff on your terms, okay? You go see Alex and don't listen to Bill telling you to do squats and to do this and to do that. You stick to this regimen and you'll be better off, which Brady was right and Guerrero was right. But as it went along, Belichick's like, what is going on with this guy now? What's the story? And that's where the schism began. But once Tom Brady became self-aware in 2017 to 2018 to 2019 to 2020, look at all the things that he's done, the cottage industries he's began. And I think a lot of it, Mike, dates back to what else was happening at the start of 2016. He was serving a 4-game suspension handed down to him by 345 on trumped up jaywalking charges that they weren't even sure that he jaywalked. So that, I think, was a seismic turn in Tom Brady's life where he's like, if it's not Bill up my ass and telling me what to do, it's the league trying to ruin me and my reputation. You know what? I'm going to do stuff for Tom over the next 5 years. And I think that's allowed. Are there times for me, as somebody who covered him, who developed a professional friendship with him, to say, that's not the guy I know? Yeah, but there's also reasons why I know he's changed, and I don't think he's changed as a character because it's the competitiveness. He is competing to say, I'm going to do stuff my way now. I did it everybody else's way for 17 years. Now it's time for me to do my stuff. I earned it.
Which feeds into the idea that he decided after 2 years with the Buccaneers, taking them to a Super Bowl, doing everything he could to get them to another one, bringing them back from a 27-3 deficit, and but for a horrible defensive call, finishing what would have been almost as great a comeback as 28-3 against the Falcons in Super Bowl 51 in his final game of the 2021 season, which we thought for 40 days was his final game ever. He's got the right, if he wants to exercise it, to go where he wants to go. That may have been the cold splash of water that ultimately ended up being dumped on his head, Deion Sanders on Tim McCarver style, when he wasn't able to engineer his way out of Tampa Bay. And really, again, but for the Brian Flores lawsuit, which dropped the same day he announced his retirement. And I'm convinced that Flores knew what was planned, and I don't think there are coincidences in this world, Tom Curran. I think that Flores filed the lawsuit knowing it was going to blow up Stephen Ross's plan to have Sean Payton and Tom Brady, and that's why it landed that day to short-circuit that plan before it could get any farther along. So bottom line is they come back for one more year with a new head coach in Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that in a second. And next year, if Tom Brady decides to keep playing, he'll have the opportunity to do what we talked about for a lot of last segment, pick his next destination.
And that would be a fascinating thing because I do remember in 2019, as the process was going along, talking to folks before Brady was done. And I mentioned Miami at that point to somebody. I mentioned it to Chris Greer, and he's like, oh, I don't know if he'd want to come down here. He's the GM of the Dolphins. Spoke also to somebody close to Brady, and they said Dolphins have a lot of cap space and they have a lot of picks. And they also have a couple of Michigan men there in Stephen Ross, and the name of the gentleman escapes me. Who's
Bruce Beal,
way up in,
his close friend, Bruce Beal, the owner
Correct.
in waiting. That's the hookup. It's not Ross. It's Brady and Beal. Remember the allegations in the Flores complaint about the unnamed high-profile quarterback that he was being pressured to meet with?
Mm-hmm.
And it was Brady, and Beal was the go-between. Beal was the one who was going to make it happen. That's what people believe, and you throw that dart, you're probably going to come close to the bullseye on it being true, but it was Bruce Beal. He's the one. Look at the photos of the crew that goes to the Kentucky Derby. There's Brady, there's Beal. They're tight. And that's why it was going to happen this year. It was Beal again, bringing Brady to Miami. Tom, you probably know this better than I do. The one team, the Patriots, were convinced that Tom Brady was going to, as the 2019 season came to a close, was the Miami Dolphins. They feared it. They believed it. And I think they were very relieved when he didn't go there.
Yeah. And excuse me, I think I don't know if I agree with that, because I just don't think they ever thought Tom Brady would leave.
Well, once they knew he was leaving, they feared he was going to Miami.
Yeah. Which would have been, so March. There was so much, excuse me, pick up. I don't want to subject everyone.
Tom's having a little bit of an allergy or something there. I don't know. Something is attacking Tom Curran. We'll get him back here momentarily. But
Something dislodged in there.
Became inevitable that Brady was leaving. That's when the Patriots became very concerned that it was going to be the Dolphins for Tom Brady in 2020. Anyway,
I think
as you were saying.
Yeah, for Robert Kraft, I think that, Belichick didn't care. He thought he was done. He thought he was washed. He was like, what are we going to do? I've been watching him for 3 years here. He's in decline. There's too many things that we'll know how to stop him if we have to deal with him, which kind of was borne out a little bit this past year. They didn't stop him. Tampa Bay Buccaneers won. There were drops in the end zone by Antonio Brown, but, the upshot of it was that for all the things that the NFL is about, appearances and power, Robert Kraft would not have wanted him in Miami for a lot of reasons, and competition-wise, but also, I have to deal with this twice a year for the next few years. So we'll get probably more into the Patriots later.
He couldn't have stopped it, though. He couldn't have stopped it.
He could have.
No. Well, there could have been a tampering.
They could have given him $25 million. That's all he wanted. All he wanted was the friggin' Breeze contract, $225 guaranteed, and they hard-assed him over and over and over again to the point we're not doing that, Tom. We're not doing that. The most ridiculously short-sighted decision that you can possibly make is taking a player who's still playing at an MVP level, who can win Super Bowls, who's working for about 60% of what he could command, and say, we can't find a spot for you, buddy.
So ultimately he goes back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and 17 days after he unretires, Bruce Arians is out. And we are supposed to believe that there is absolutely no connection between the two events. And, the mere fact that Tom Brady was not the slightest bit troubled, the point that I made back at the time, just think if Drew Brees had unretired after 40 days in 2021 and Sean Payton had left 17 days later, Brees would have said, what the hell? What the hell? I came back and now you're gone. But it just underscores the fact that Bruce Arians was kind of semi-retired and not really involved. And I think they should be far more troubled than they are about the fact that Arians is gone, because I think on game day he did a good job of not screwing up. Of all the times we talk about coaches who screw up on game day, Arians is never one of them, icing his own kicker or making a bad decision on fourth down or any of that stuff that mars the careers of other coaches who soon become former coaches. Arians doesn't have his fingerprints on those kinds of boneheaded decisions. And I'm not saying Todd Bowles will or does, but you take a lot for granted when you have a guy who is very locked in and able to get the job done during those 3 hours on Sundays. The reality, though, is he was kind of checked out for the rest of the week, and he was delegating a lot.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.